Hello, and welcome back, or perhaps for the first time, to Black Jade Island. For those of you who don't know, Black Jade is my hard mode island. Hard mode is a special set of rules created by Nintendogs that make the game just a little bit more challenging. My day started the way it always does. I stopped to check my mail. The HHA gave my house an S rank this week, which was very exciting. I don't believe I will be repeating this score next week. CJ's last visit pushed me to almost being able to pay off my current loan, which means I will almost certainly be able to add on another room this week. And if I understand how the HHA scores work correctly, more rooms bumps up the point threshold to get higher scores. I stopped to take care of my crops before hunting down Daisy May to see what she's selling turnips for, and I realized that I'm broke, and I can't afford even a single set of turnips for 108 bells each. So I put Daisy May on the back burner. As long as I get back to her before noon, we should be fine. While I was hunting for Daisy May, I had managed to find all of the fossils on the island, so I stopped by the museum to check it out. It turns out that I found all of the pieces of the mammoth. I only mentioned that because I think mammoths are cool, and Blathers agrees. I celebrated with some coffee. My last 2 times Miles' task was to sell a hot item, and I needed some bells for turnips anyway, so it was a real 2 birds with 1 stone stool situation for me. I crafted some to sell, and while I was there, I saw this samurai armor that I desperately wanted, but it was way too expensive, so I just bought this big lava lamp instead. I tracked Daisy May back down and bought a single set of 10 turnips, because it was all I could afford. Maybe next week I'll be better prepared to play the stock market. I ran off to get my fortune told by Katrina, only to be turned away because I was too poor. So I ran over to Leaf to sell some of the weeds I had in my pockets to earn enough bells to complete that daily task. Once I returned to Black Jade, Norma ran up to me and gave me a set of dreamy shells. I didn't know this at the time, but they contain the unicorn plush, which is beautiful. This is why Norma's my favorite. I stopped to do this week's custom design. I decided to go with a hoodie this week. I didn't have any particular theme in mind, I just wanted to use the colors that I thought were pretty. The hood, though, is ruining my life. Because of those 2 little squares at the bottom corners, it pokes out just enough that it upsets me, but making those squares blue would put weird blue dots on the hood, so I just have to live with my suffering, I suppose. Because it was a hoodie instead of a dress, I suddenly found myself without pants, so I ran to the Able Sisters to purchase some. I didn't have enough bells to buy all of the things that I wanted, but I had what I needed to put pants back on, which was what was really important. I headed straight for my wardrobe in my bedroom to fix my outfit. I don't know why, but for some reason this outfit makes me feel like I'm trying to cosplay Sophie Bikes from Unsleeping City. I think it's just the hair. I finished off my daily tasks by doing my stretching, and then, for reasons unknown to me, I almost went inside resident services, turned around, ran to the pond, and then turned back around and went inside resident services. That's just a little taste of what I have to go through trying to sort out my own nonsense, screaming at myself after the fact. What were you trying to do just now? What was your goal? Why are you being so inefficient? Apparently I had wanted to buy a Nook Miles ticket and head over to a mystery island because that's where I eventually ended up. I think I've finally figured out how to deal with this rock in the middle of the spiral, which was a very exciting personal victory for me that was swiftly undercut by me failing to protect myself from a swarm of wasps moments later. Usually one of the villagers inside their houses will be working on a DIY or cooking recipe that they'll give to you, so I went on a hunt for them, but I got bored after 2 attempts and went on a boat tour instead. It was a vine and moss island, which made me very happy. I'm building up a pretty good store of those. And it had a money rock on it. Very exciting. I started the morning with this very nice letter from Norma. Normal villagers might be my favorite personality type in the series. They're very nice. I like that in a villager. I also like lazy villagers because sometimes they will ruin my birthday by telling me about the birthday clown living in their walls. Cranston told me that story 3 years ago and I'm still troubled by it. I watered my crops. While I was searching for fossils, I realized that I can run behind this cliff. I'm pretty sure I knew I could do it before, but my brain has decided that this is new information, so it stuck out to me. Kit decided that we should go hang out at my place. She really likes my house for some reason. I think this is the 2nd or 3rd time in 2 weeks that she's just decided she wanted to come over. While she was visiting, she did the usual things, gifted me a shirt I can't wear, played high card, low card with me, called my foosball table sophisticated, which is not the adjective I would have used, but thanks. She is also much better at the guitar than I am. I accidentally asked her to stay longer while mashing through her dialogue and was trapped in my own home for even longer than before. While she was here, she pointed out that my DIY workbench is facing backwards. Was anybody going to tell me, or was I supposed to find out when my Animal Crossing villager roasted me about it? I got bored of playing host, so I just decided to abandon my home with her inside. She could either stay or leave, I didn't really care. She chose to leave, and I was finally allowed to move on with my day. I found another lost item, and once again, through the power of deductive reasoning, I decided that it was probably Patty's. For the same reasons as the last video, this is the Peppy Villager's item, and I haven't been talking to Wendy that much outside of the time she demands I come to her house with her. Flick was on my island, which should have been very exciting, but I couldn't be bothered to do a whole lot of bug hunting today. I decided to just empty out Bug Prison, and any other bugs I happened to catch would just be a nice bonus. I asked him to make a model of a common butterfly just to get it out of the way. The Able sisters were selling this extremely fun skull hood that I bought immediately. I should have put it on, but it didn't really fit with this week's shirt's vibe, so next time. I went on to buy some junk from Nook's Cranny. They were selling this server that was way too expensive. I don't even know what I would do with it. Even so, I long for it. I checked my fossils, got some coffee, finally circled back to Flick to get him to buy the bugs I had stuffed my pockets with. I'd squared away the last of my 2 times miles tasks. While I was in the area, I stopped to visit our new pumpkin keeper. Tatami flooring is really pretty, but I feel like I wouldn't like it in real life. It's pretty delicate, as I understand it. I would be too worried that I would break it or spill something on it or something. I stopped by the resident services building to finally pay off my home loan and then get the ball rolling on expanding my house again. While I was in there, I finally remembered to hold the ceremony for the upgraded Nook's Cranny. I did some stretching before popping over to Harv's Island. I stopped by Leaf and he was selling the potato starts. Now this time, for real, I have all of the crops available in Animal Crossing New Horizons. Everybody clap. I got my fortune told to finish off my dailies and made my way directly to outside of Kit's house to plant the potatoes. Now she is the potato keeper in truth. Before calling it a day, I tracked Flick down one last time to give him all of the bugs that I had happened across. It wasn't much money, but it was more money than I had yesterday. They tacked a new room onto my house while I slept, which means I finally have more storage again. So, I held off on dealing with my usual chores to clean up a little of the mess that I had made. The furniture, at least. The crafting materials are still laying on the ground until they are needed. Once that was done, I did my daily chores, starting with taking care of my crops. I decided not to harvest the pumpkins from the pumpkin keeper's house because I want to stagger my harvests. It just makes more sense to me. Gulliver was on my island again. While I was searching for his lost communicator parts, Norma flagged me down and invited me over to her place. I hung out for a bit, played high card, low card. She tried to sell me some of her garbage. I said I didn't want it before I noticed that she did actually have something that I wanted. That cutting board in the corner there. I need it, and it hasn't been in Nook's Cranny yet. Sadly, I couldn't get her to try to sell me anything again, so I left. Next time. Tension pole racks were the hot item, so I crafted a few to sell, checked my fossils, got some coffee. Brewster stopped me on the way out to give me a coffee plant. Then it was time for me to make my purchases. The laptop I wanted was just a bit out of my price range. Once I finish paying off my house, I'll be able to buy all of the expensive things, but for right now, I'm trying to conserve as much money as I can. My current loan is over 700,000 bells, and the next one is going to be over 1 million. So it'll be a while before I can spend freely. Anyway, I picked up this, well, the game calls it a metal jar, but to me, it looks like one of those urns that you store cremated ashes in, so I can't get that out of my head. I did my stretching. The next step in my daily tasks was going to be trouble. I had to catch a tuna. So I crafted some bait from the manila clams I had found while searching for Gulliver's missing communicator parts, picked up whatever bait I had crafted before, and made my way down to the pier. It took me a few tries, but I did eventually catch that tuna and crossed off all of the 2 times miles tasks. I also caught a blue marlin that I donated to the museum. And I finished my day by getting my fortune told. I started off by watering my crops and flowers. I finally got the first purple tulip out of this mass of orange tulips who have been stubbornly refusing to give me one up until now. I ran down to the Able sisters to swap it out with one of the pink ones, and I was right, they do look nice together. Hattie stopped me to sell me a shirt that I can't wear. While I was hunting for fossils, I noticed that my hyacinths have kind of grown into the shape of a heart. I might do something with that at some point, but not just yet. Red was on my island, so I stopped to check out what he had in stock. Apparently the twinkling painting is always real, so I bought one, along with this neon light bar that I thought would look cool in my living room. I stopped to make the rest of my purchases. Sadly, the mall katana was too expensive for me, so I bought this changing room that I thought was a shower instead. I haven't been having much luck with turnip prices this week. I don't think it's hit above 70 bells all week. I'm starting to worry that I'm going to take a loss on this. I put up the light bar in my house, and while I was doing that, Sparrow decided to just invite himself over. He didn't stay for long, just long enough to give me a shirt I can't wear, play high card, low card to give me another shirt I can't wear, and then he left. I circled my island like 3 times without finding the 4th fossil for the day, so I just gave up and went to check out the fossils that I did have, and then I got myself some coffee. Basically seconds after I left the museum, I found the final fossil. I got it checked out, and it turns out that it was the last piece of the Pachycephalosaurus that I needed. And Blathers was unusually rude to the Pachycephalosaurus in the Blathers Facts TM. Damn, Blathers, what did the Pachycephalosaurus ever do to you? I did my stretches, bought some camellia bushes from Leaf, checked my fortune for the day. I planted the bushes next to the market area because I thought it looked nice. My last 2 times miles task was to get sea creatures, so I went diving. I managed to pull up a scallop for Pascal and crossed off my last daily task. I decided to wander around the beach, harvesting any shells that were laying around. I don't know if this is how all schools did it, but in my middle school they split us up into 2 class blocks called teams. One of the teams was the All-Stars, but I got stuck on the Beachcombers, which just feels so demeaning in comparison. It's been 20 years and I'm still mad about it. Now that Admiral's house should be fully decorated, I stopped to visit him. It seems Wendy had the same idea because she was also there. It just seemed like an odd combination to me. New day, new harvest. I keep forgetting to hold back some of the wheat to make into flour. This hasn't been a problem so far, but there will come a day soon that it's going to bite me in the butt. I just know it. My first potato crop came in, but I didn't harvest it. I want Kit's patch to be on the same cycle as the pumpkin patch next to Admiral's house. While I was digging up fossils, Rodney noticed me from above, but since he couldn't reach me, he gave up immediately, which I thought was very funny. I checked my fossils and donated the twinkling painting to the museum before running off to get some coffee. I decided to line this area close to the beach with fruit trees. I am aware of the mistake that I made while planting them, but won't get around to fixing it for a while yet. Just know that I know, and it bugs me too. One of my 2 times miles tasks was to plant crops. Hard mode has very specific rules about harvesting crops, but it doesn't have any rules about using crops as decoration. Upon consideration, I put 2 pumpkin starts that I bought from Leaf outside of Norma's house. I completed the Nook Miles tasks by hitting some rocks, but I continued attacking the rocks until I found the money rock. I haven't really been bothering with the money rocks so far, and I don't imagine that will change in the future, but today I just really wanted one. I did my stretching, planted some azalea bushes outside of Nook's cranny. Turnip prices are still trash, but I bought this TV that I thought looked cool. I remembered that if I wanted the miles for completing the 2 times miles tasks, I actually needed to go in and check them off, so I stopped to take care of that, before making some more purchases over at the Able sisters. I checked my fortune, and to finish off the day, I decorated the spare room in my house. I kinda wanted the vibe to be like a child's bedroom, but mostly it was just to clear out some of the furniture that I didn't really have a use for out of my storage. I think it came out pretty alright, all things considered. I could probably stand to throw down a rug or 2 now that I think about it. Isabel announced that we have a visitor at the campsite. I never really made note of it before starting hard mode, but this feels like I'm getting a lot of campsite visitors, like an unusual number. I took care of my crops. Label was on my island, so it was time for another fashion quest. She wanted me to put on a goth outfit, and oh boy did she come to the right former mall goth for this task, but I put it on the back burner to do some stretching instead. The vampire shirt Label gave me was the purple variant, which was a choice. Sadly, I didn't have all of the outfit options that I wanted, so my outfit came out lacking. While I was in there, I noticed that I somehow ended up with 2 sets of night vision goggles, so I went through my storage to remove any duplicate items. Label liked my outfit even if I didn't. She gave me a skirt that I'm almost certainly never going to wear. I had another catch a tuna task for my 2 times miles tasks. I had 15 pieces of bait left over from the previous tuna quest. I went through all of them and not a single tuna to be found, so I ran around hunting for more clams to try again. Spaghetti fell from the sky while I was searching, which is fun. Animal Crossing can be so silly sometimes. Since I was in the area, I checked out the campsite visitor. It was Jacob, and he seems fine. I managed to wear him down, and he decided to replace Kit. I've elected her to be the potato keeper. Hopefully she doesn't suffer the same fate as the pumpkin keeper. I gotta stop speaking this shit into existence. Then it was right back to the vanilla clam grind. I got 11 to turn into bait and figured that would be enough for another attempt. I still didn't find one, so back to digging for clams. I took a quick fossils and coffee break, did some shopping, then I was back on that grind. I got 16 more bags of bait and ran back to the pier, and came up with nothing, so it was back to the clams. Another 16 units of bait and back to the pier, and I got 0 tuna. I was frustrated, so I went to go get my fortune told, hoping that that would help somehow. And while I was at it, I decided to knock out the other 4 Nook Miles tasks, and just leave the tuna for last. Also, I headed over to the Nook stop, and apparently I had forgotten to check it at some point because my streak was gone. I shopped for the items that I wanted to make my little playground area, and futzed around with some custom designs to begin laying out the groundwork. Unfortunately, the designs didn't play nice with the sand pathing that I wanted to use to make my sandbox, so I gave up. And then it was back to the clams. I dug up and subsequently turned into bait 70 clams. 70 clams! And then I went back to fishing. 70 pieces of bait I used, and do you know how many tuna I caught? None. Nada. Not a single one. And for those of you playing the home game, I used 128 pieces of bait today. At that point, I just decided to take the L and call it a day. I couldn't do it anymore. Look, no one can say that I didn't try my best. Sometimes the game just says no. Isabel let us know that it's the start of cherry blossom season, so it'll be much easier for me to tell which trees are and are not fruit trees. I watered my crops, started work on my playground. While I was at it, I dug up the pumpkin plants next to Norma's house because I changed my mind about them. I gave her a little fenced-off yard area and put a dirt path underneath my pergola, and gave Norma a natural square garden table and a garden chair to enjoy a cup of coffee at. I bought a brick path permit and made a little path to the shops. Started work on a custom design to make my sandbox playground, but then I got overwhelmed and put the project aside for the rest of the day. Instead, I started collecting wood, angered some bees, and ran to Admiral's house for sanctuary. And Admiral gave me this weird personality test. I caught a butterfly that I hadn't before and remembered that it was the first day of a new month, which means there are new bugs and fish for me to catch. Let's see if I manage to keep that in mind for later. I checked my fossils, grabbed my coffee, went diving until I found a scallop. I went on to make my purchases. I realized that in all of the clam hunting and bait making and fishing I did yesterday, I completely forgot to redecorate the living room, so I started work on that. I paused to do my stretches, and I think this might be the first time Pascal has joined us, unless he did before and I didn't notice. Whatever. I finally put my gyroid wall to rest and moved the gyroids to lurk outside of the market area. Now everyone who stops by to visit will be watched by 24 gyroids. Please look forward to it. I went back to finish decorating my house. It's not great. The vibe I wanted to go for was not a ski lodge, but like a bonfire at the bottom of a ski slope. Not like directly at the base of one, that would be hilariously unsafe. I finished off the last of my 2 times miles tasks, got my fortune told, and finally sold my turnips in despair. It was only a 500 bell loss, so it wasn't like the worst thing in the world, but a loss is still a loss. All that's left is the KK Slider concert. While I have you here, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and press the button that tells me so. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss the next one, subscribe. I hope to see you all next week.
Oh me, oh me, me, oh me, oh me, me, oh me, oh. Oh me, oh me, me, oh me, oh me, me, oh me, oh me, me, oh, oh me, na oh.